I cried, I fell down to my knees and prayed. Thank the Lord that I'm still here. For so long, it's been Bibles and battlefields. And all this time, I've held you in my heart. And though we're worlds apart, I still hear. Like 1,000 years, all this time, it's been Bibles and battlefields. To this endless hell, it's the hope that one day this war will end, and I'll be home. For so long, it's been Bibles and battlefields. And all this time, I've held you in my heart. Though we're worlds apart, I still hear you. And all these days, I've counted down the hours. It's like 1,000 it's been Bibles and battlefields. Oh, I won't give up my love, and I won't give in, and I will hold my ground until I'm back with you again. All this time, I've held you in my heart. And though we're worlds apart, I still hear you. And all these days, I've counted down the hours. It's like 1,000 years. It's been Bibles and battlefields. Since I crossed the hill and o'er the moor and valley, such heavy thoughts my heart do fill since parting with my Sally. I seek no more the fine and gay, for each does but remind me how swift the hours did pass away with the girl I left behind me. Shall I forget the night the stars were bright above me, and gently lent their silvery light when first she vowed to love me? But now I'm bound to Brighton camp, kind heaven, then pray guide me, and send me safely back again to the girl I left behind me. My mind her image full retains, whether asleep or waking. I hope to see my jewel again, for her my heart is breaking. But if ever I should have a chance to go back across the ocean, although my love may be lost to me, I'll find another maiden. Shall honey taste no more, the dove become become a ranger. The falling waters cease to roar, ere I shall seek to change her. Each mutual promise faithfully made by her whom woes betide me, and true the lass that loves me well, and the girl I left behind me. The brigadier commands the right and guard the ford and river. The main guard charge to attack, the flanking party shiver. The man who wears the stars and stripes, and in the field they find me. I will lay down my life and die for the girl I left behind me. Preserved while love will be the chain, sir. But if any of our rights are touched, I hope that we shall gain, sir. And if I should as a soldier fall, for one of us she'll pine, sir. And may her arms entwine another man like the girl I left behind me.
And good evening. Welcome to Bibles and Battlefields, our history show. I've kind of bounced it around a little bit this week. We're still looking for the right home for it and what time, although it will be on Tuesday or Thursday. Traditionally, we've had a lot going on and not able to, just the day got away. Health issues with my wife and didn't feel good myself. But we've been busy. But it actually worked out better to move tonight still this evening. And we'll be broadcasting a lot this evening. And in a couple of, about 3 hours, just a little less than 3 hours, we'll be in our front porch show. We've got special guests, Three Ravens Publishing and threeravenspublishing.com is their website. We're having a book release party tonight. It came from the trailer park. I always want to say it happened because there's a lot of things that happen at the trailer park. I love the series. And it's released today. I've already started reading on it, and they're just great books. And so some of the authors and publisher and all will be with us tonight for that. And following this show, we hope to do a music show today. And I've been talking to these folks and had a great talk with them today. I went to their grand opening, the ribbon cutting. I missed the ribbon cutting because I was running a little bit behind. But there's some. And I don't have a card made up for them yet, but I do have this. And so you see the Southern Shadows, Uncover History and Haunts. They just opened up in the little quaint, tiny town of Chickamauga, Georgia. It just so happens we're talking about the Battle of Chickamauga. And the two of them, the lady of the business is that is her specialty, is the Battle of Chickamauga. And she's going to be coming on the show. She can't tonight. Of course, we're going to be talking about this battle for a few shows. We've done one so far, and we will continue to do more as we explore the depth and the breadth and everything about the uniqueness of each battlefield and the battle itself. We'll look at that. I'm not an expert, but I have a lot of knowledge about such things. I've even did a tour through the battlefield, and I've given private tours of things that I know for people that wanted to know more. And so that's how you learn. You dig, you study, you listen to others who know, and you have fun. But give these folks, look up their website. There's a QR code, which probably will not work off the screen. I doubt it. It might. You never know. But look these folks up. Scan that QR code if I can keep my hand still. We're going to get a card made up for them. And, their website is, it's on the front. southernshadows.com. So that's pretty easy to remember. And you can also get info at southernshadows.com as well. So www.southernshadows.com. I wish them the best. They do all kinds of history talks and even the ghost tours and also scavenger hunts, which is pretty cool. I'm excited about that and hoping that, and they're going to be on the show, or at least she will. She's the one that she's doing several podcasts. And so she'll be on some different podcasts in the area. And that's great. I want to help them. They're a small business. That's our specialty, is reaching out and helping small people that are startups and small companies. And we want to give back everybody has a starting place. And we definitely wanted to give them the help, and we're not looking for money out of it. If a few followers come along, that's great, but there's no prerequisites. We just want to help. The very first business that we ever did this for was this one, Angie's Decatur Diner, and we still have a relationship with them. And they're a great diner if you're ever in Decatur, Tennessee. So Angie there, and she's always got that smile and great food. And we love to help small business like this. And we have others that we are helping or going to promote. And Three Ravens Publishing is one of those. You'll see them tonight, as well as smaller ministries. They're going to be on. They've been on the show. They've been back on the show. They're going to be on the show again. Love Endures Ministries. We want to help these folks. They've got help for others, and we want to help them and have a great testimony. Our good friend Steve at Half Pine Forge, he qualifies, and he has a live that he'll be doing tonight at Half Pine Forge Live. Half Pine Forge and Half Pine Forge Live on the Rumble channel. On the Rumble channel. I don't know if he does any others right now, but Half Pine Forge, you can get all the information. We want to help these folks. And, we have our own coffee line. You can QR code that for us. We'll just put a couple of these up tonight, and we'll get started in the show. And then Mammoth Nation is another affiliate that we have. And let's go and get the newest one, which is the Hodge Twins. And we love that. You also see the QR code for supporting us at different levels. And we're fixing to do some exclusive content at Buy Me a Coffee and some others as well. We've already started, matter of fact. We have a true crime show that we do on Clapper. That is exclusive to Clapper. We'll not air it on anything else. So if you don't know what a Clapper is, go download it. And you'll see our true crime. We're covering missing cases and court cases and stuff. And we've already covered a couple on there. Should be on there late tonight. We're going to be having some of those unique shows on TikTok, Wimkin and Buy Me a Coffee. And there's a couple of more. These are all going to be exclusive content. And Rumble has its own. We have a couple on Rumble, the Southern Fried Vent. And we have another one that'll be coming up and pumping up there pretty soon. And it'll be exclusive to Rumble. Don't forget to get your Rumble app, guaranteed free speech and protected. And Pickaxe is a great companion app to get with it. The app's not out yet, but you can download the desktop to that. Well, anyway, I'm Dave in the AM, aka the Cornbread Man. We've been talking about the Battle of Chickamauga, and boy, did we stood in the shop today. I had to get out of it. You can always, when you go talk shop with somebody and you both have a passion for it, time just gets away from you. And she's fantastic. So Miss Courtney over there. But they was grand opening today right there at 110A Gordon Street, right through the heart of the city. She will be on soon, and I hope to develop a long-term partnership with them and for many things. And if we can be a benefit to them in any way, we hope so. In fact, we were talking about the Battle of Chickamauga. Last week, we kind of looked at just some overall things about the battle. I want to look at a little bit more of the commanding generals tonight, and we'll talk about them. And if anybody would ever like to come up that has, walked that battlefield, has some expertise, some knowledge, stories, whatever, feel free to send me an email at southernfriedpodcast@yahoo.com, southernfriedpodcast@yahoo.com. And we'd be glad to send you an invite to a future show and let you come up and talk history. We'll move on from here. I don't know which battlefield we'll go. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. We'll be here a little bit. Last week, I also looked at Sam Watkins' book, Company H. And that's a great book because he mentions all of the local areas as they battled through. The Army of Tennessee did through the area against the Union Army outside in the battles, the greater battles of Chattanooga and North Georgia on, of course, down the 100 Days Battle to Atlanta. And there's many, many, many. Well, if we just follow the trail, we're going to be doing this show for a while because there's a lot to cover. And that's great. I love it. I don't want to rush anything. I want to have fun with it. We can have fun with history. And this is a unique battle. I was telling Miss Courtney today, it doesn't get the respect it deserves. And I mentioned Vicksburg, which is another one. It does not get the respect it deserves for the role it played. And they should make a movie out of Chickamauga and probably Vicksburg too. But I certainly think Chickamauga should have a movie made about it. there's so many unique characters in the battle. We were looking last week, and I was just pulling up some of the numbers here. And, the armies were fairly even at this battle. In fact, the Confederates had a slight advantage strength-wise because they had more just right here. But they lost a little bit more. And again, these numbers, depending on who you look at, I don't know if these are accurate, but we know that several thousand died. There were several thousand wounded, and some that were captured on both sides. The numbers are staggering when you look at the losses that occurred for an army of, 60 to 65,000, depending on which, army you're looking at. I mean, the carnage that was there. Sam talked about it. The wails of the dying, the wails of those looking for their loved ones that were close by, or just looking for, to help people. The cries out. Still an active battlefield. It's a 2-day battle, an active battlefield, and so you couldn't just go as army. They didn't do a lot of night battles, but they did do a night battle at Chickamauga. We're not going to talk about that tonight, but probably next week. I still don't have the pictures and video, and I'm sorry for that. It's been a little crazy at work, and I do work. I have this full time, and I work full time, and other things. So I apologize for that. And the weather's not been great, and I wanted to get a little bit better weather, and looking to do some of that over the weekend. And next week we'll put up pictures. I know not many of you may have been here. You may not have, and we want to show you some of that, and we'll do video from there. But in looking at the battle, for the Union side, William Rosecrans, who did not fare well here. In fact, of course, obviously it was a loss. It should have even been a greater loss. That's maybe a story for another time too. But William Rosecrans, was the overall commanding general for the Union Army here at the Battle of Chickamauga. He was born in 1881, and he was born in. I'm looking at his years of service in the military. 1819, and he died in 1898. He was 78 years old. He died in California, which a lot of people went west. The East was suffering so bad. A little bit about him. He was also an inventor. He was a coal oil company executive, a diplomat, a politician, and of course a U.S. Army officer. He gained fame for his role as a Union general during the war. However, his military career ended after the defeat at the Battle of Chickamauga. So that's why I say Rosecrans left the battlefield. He abandoned. He split. They got it was a rout. They got on the run. A unit moved that shouldn't have moved. The Confederates exploited it on day 2 and just run them out, and should have run them out of Chattanooga. But again, like I said, that's another story for another time. He did attend and graduate from the United States Military Academy, where he served in engineering assignments. Now, others did this as well. In fact, Robert E. Lee served in this way. He was a professor before leaving the Army to pursue a career in civil engineering. At the start of the war, he led troops from Ohio and achieved early combat success in Western Virginia. In 1862, in the Western Theater, according to Wikipedia, and I know sometimes things can be changed, but I think it's probably pretty accurate. He won the Battle of Luca and the Second Battle of Corinth under the command of Ulysses S. Grant. We know that name. His brusque, outspoken manner and willingness to quarrel openly with superiors caused a professional rivalry with Grant, as well as with Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, not a nice guy. I'll throw that out there, which would adversely affect his career. Given the command of the Army of the Cumberland, he fought against Confederate General Braxton Bragg at Stones River. It's another battlefield I've been to. Some of it preserved, even in a well-developed area. That's a nice little battlefield to visit, and we'll talk about that one at a future date as well. He then outmaneuvered him in the brilliant Tullahoma campaign, driving the Confederates from Middle Tennessee. His strategic movements then caused Bragg to abandon the critical city of Chattanooga. Very controversial here in the South as a military move. That was a big loss, obviously. The river, rail line, all that stuff they lost. But Rosecrans' pursuit of Bragg ended during the bloody Battle of Chickamauga, where his he has unfortunately worded order mistakenly opened a gap in the Union line, and Rosecrans and a third of his army were swept from the field. Besieged in Chattanooga, Rosecrans was relieved of command by Grant. Following his humiliating defeat, he goes on to say Rosecrans was reassigned to the command of the Department of Missouri, where he opposed Price's raid. That's kind of like being sent to Siberia. After the war, he served in diplomatic and appointed political positions. In 1880, he was elected to Congress representing, obviously, California, where he died. William Rosecrans. He didn't get the glory. He didn't get the war glory, even though he had early success. He did not fare well. And, he is mocked for his leaving of the battlefield and leaving his men. If he was Captain Smith on the Titanic, he would have jumped overboard, or he'd have been one of the first boats off. We'll just say it that way. I mean, that's fair. So, you can go to the field and look at the last place he was seen before he galloped and skedaddled before the rest of his men on into Chattanooga, scared out of his wits, I'm sure, as he heard the Confederate cry. Not much better. In fact, I don't even know if I would put better for the Southern side was Braxton Bragg. Now, you'll find Braxton Bragg supporters, and I'd love for somebody to come on and defend him. But he was not liked in many, many ways by many, many people, and history is not good for him either. As we look back, born in 1817, March 22nd, he died in 1876, so 11 years after the war. I was an American Army officer during the Second Seminole War and Mexican-American War. Now, a lot of your generals did fight in the Mexican-American War of 1846, 48, something like that. I think that was 46 to 48. Coon Lee, Stonewall Jackson, many of them on both sides. He was a Confederate general in the Confederate Army during the war between the states, we're going to say. We're going to change the words here. Serving in the Western Theater, his most important role was commander of the Army of Mississippi, later renamed the Army of Tennessee, from June 1862 until December 1863. Bragg, a native of Warrenton, North Carolina, was educated at West Point, so he's a point man, and became an artillery officer. He served in Florida and then received 3 brevet promotions for distinguished service in the Mexican-American War, most notably the Battle of Buena Vista. He resigned from the U.S. Army in 1856 to become a sugar plantation owner in Louisiana. At the start of the war, Bragg trained soldiers in the Gulf Coast region. He was a corps commander at the Battle of Shiloh. That's another battlefield we definitely want to get on the ground at. We've been there 2 or 3 times. We'll go back and get pictures and video from there as well. Ourselves, not clipped things. We're not stealing them. I will go to all of them in person. I've been there before. Shiloh is a special battlefield. I don't know. There's a certain feeling at Shiloh. We'll talk about it later time. But that is, I've had friends that's been able to camp there in reenactments in and around Shiloh, and they'll tell you it's special. Outside of Gettysburg, maybe the most special for a lot of people, and of course Appomattox, and for different reasons, very sad reasons. But anyway, he was Brigadier General. He and Brigadier General Edmund Kirby Smith attempted an invasion of Kentucky in 1862, which we know did not end well. And Kentucky was a state that was flip-flopping around, that was a great loss early on. But Bragg retreated following a minor tactical victory at the Battle of Perryville in October. See, that's what I'm saying. He just didn't have the best credentials for things that was going on. Of course, the loss of Johnston Albert Sidney was detriment to the military on the southern side anyway. In December at Murfreesboro, Tennessee, he fought the Battle of Stones River against the Army of the Cumberland under Major General William Rosecrans, and they would meet again, obviously, here. This bloody and inconclusive battle ended with his retreat, so second retreat. After months without significant fighting, Bragg was outmaneuvered by Rosecrans in the Tullahoma campaign in June 1863, causing him to surrender Middle Tennessee to the Union. Bragg retreated. Notice a continuing his resume is retreat. And you can say, well, he was outnumbered, whatever, but you have to defeat. You can't keep giving up land. retreated Chattanooga, but evacuated it in September as Rosecrans troops entered Georgia. Later that month, with the assistance of Confederate forces on the Eastern Theater under James Longstreet, we're going to talk about him in a few minutes, Bragg was able to defeat Rosecrans in the Battle of Chickamauga, the bloodiest battle in the Western Theater and the only significant Confederate victory therein. Bragg forced Rosecrans back into Tennessee, but was criticized for the heavy casualties Army suffered and for not mounting an effective pursuit, of which General Forrest was extremely unhappy and threatened his life. Forrest was no fan of Braxton Bragg. Bragg's army was routed by Major General Ulysses S. Grant for the battles for Chattanooga and pushed back to Georgia. And at this point, President Jefferson has had enough. He should have been before now, but anyway. Confederate President Jefferson Davis subsequently relieved Bragg of command, recalling him to Richmond as his chief military advisor. Bragg briefly returned to the field as a corps commander near the war's end during the campaign of the Carolinas. He is generally considered among the worst generals of the war. That's true. Most of the battles he engaged in, he ended in defeat. Bragg was extremely unpopular with both the officers and ordinary men under his command. In fact, a lot of desertions had occurred in the Southern Army. And one of the things Sam Watkins writes about in his book, when they made the change, and even though the general that relieved him had a similar tactic of fighting and burning bridges and retreating on down to Atlanta to wage battle there, he was inflicting damage and saving the army. He got paid, returned to the military, the new commander did, and we'll talk about him later. But he was, the men didn't like this man. He was, and it did happen a lot during the war. He was having a lot of men shot, but it was not good for the Southern Army at this point. They criticized him for his numerous perceived faults, including poor battlefield strategy. Did he have one? Retreat, a quick temper, and he looks like it when you see pictures of him. And overzealous discipline. How about shot? Which other generals did to hold things in line, but his was very brutal, over the top, and he just didn't have any respect by the men. Though some point towards the failures of Bragg's subordinates, especially Major General and former Bishop Leonidas Polk, the fighting preacher. And yes, there's problems with him, but even with, I don't care who you had, Bragg was not a good leader. He was a close ally of Davis and known enemy of Bragg, and more significant factors in the many Confederate defeats under Bragg's command. The losses suffered by Bragg's forces are cited as highly consequential, the ultimate defeat of the CSA. So he just was not a liked person whatsoever. And when you look at him, he is, look at that face. He just looks like that guy, and so he just wasn't that guy. I don't know. Maybe you have to have that guy. I don't know. It's not for me to say, but he just definitely was not a very good person, and it showed. And it's amazing that this victory, though, happened and occurred. But he did go on to battles for Chattanooga, then at Fort Fisher, Wise Fork, and the Battle of Bentonville. But yeah, so we have Braxton Bragg. Now, let's shift back over to the Union and someone who became a local hero to the Union. And there are things named for him here. And that would be this man, who is really the one who's known, even in defeat, as the Rock of Chickamauga, because of these what was happening to Rosecrans. He made the stand. So General Henry Thomas, born 1816, and passed away in 1870. It was the same year as Robert E. Lee. He was an American general throughout the war and one of the principal commanders in the Western Theater. He also served in the Mexican-American War. He was a Virginian, and that state did secede, but he was a Southern Unionist, so there was a lot of pockets of that in the South, and many families even. I mean, some people wanted the states to stay in the Union. There was, questionable, and so it was. That's the votes were sometimes very close, and in some cases, states didn't vote to secede because of those close votes. But he chose to remain in the U.S. Army. He was one of the first. He had one of the first Union victories of the war at Mill Springs in Kentucky, and served an important subordinate commands at Perryville and Stones River. His stout defense at the Battle of Chickamauga in 1863 saved the Union Army. Truth, everybody recognizes that fact. In fact, under that defense that occurred, and saved them from, because I mean, really, if that amounted to defense, they kind of probably could have pushed them off, but they didn't do that. But he gets the credit for that. I understand that, and but Vice President Cheney's ancestor fought and was up on that hill, and they he come here to visit that area at least once, I think twice maybe, and some of the folks got to meet him as he had a Union ancestor, and he should. We should recognize those men who was in such a great tragedy, and many of them gave their lives or were wounded for life and suffered the rest of their life because of war. And we're one nation under God, but we look back and there was we just had differences, and it was more than one, and we know that. He soon followed. He was. That's when he became known for the nickname the Rock of Chickamauga. He soon followed after the dramatic breakthrough on Missionary Ridge and Battle of Chattanooga. They talk about that in the Franklin-Nashville campaign of 1864, where Hood destroyed the Army of Tennessee. Sorry, but true. He achieved one of the most decisive victories of the war, destroying, and they say it, the Confederate General John Bell Hood. The army of Confederate General John Bell Hood, his former student at West Point at the Battle of Nashville. Franklin was the main one. Nashville just finished it off, and a remnant made it into Greensboro, North Carolina. But really, it was Franklin. They did a crazy attack in Nashville, and it was just easy peasy for them to do that. Nothing against him. He did his duty on his side, and he gets right. To the victors go the spoils and the titles. He developed he had a successful record in the war, but he failed to achieve the historical acclaim of some of his contemporaries because he developed a reputation as a slow, deliberate general in an environment rife with jealousy and averance for promotion and recognition. Thomas stood out as an oddball for occasionally refusing promotions to positions he thought he was still incapable of fulfilling. Conversely, he sometimes regretted his refusals or found it offensive that he was passed over for promotion. After the war, he did not write memoirs to advance his legacy and died only 5 years after the war. And he died in San Francisco, California, at the young age of 53 years old. So he was also known as Slow Trot Thomas. I didn't know that. I've missed that somewhere. And an old slow trot and pap and the sledge of Nashville, as well as the Rock of Chickamauga. I've only known myself, and I haven't done a deep dive on some of these generals on the Union side. Just haven't. All right, let's go over to the very interesting James Longstreet. In fact, at Southern Shadows today, we had quite a bit of talk about Mr. General James Longstreet, and I enjoyed the conversation. And if you know his story, after the war, there was some criticisms that he did. He also went to the president, Grant, and got his, wanted to get citizenship restored, and to go into politics. And he switched parties too. That all those things caused him for a long time not to be well liked in a lot of the South. But in what I understand is that later on during the bicentennial, that so long time had passed. And I'm not saying he was right or wrong. I'm saying he was critical, and people didn't like that because Lee was not here to defend himself. And so there is in that, people did not like that. He had a great look, did he not? I mean, that is a great beard. I mean, he looked like a general. That face could be a preacher, a general, maybe even a professor, teacher. He just has that great historical look. I've always liked, old Pete. I like the right hand of, well, of course, you had Stonewall, the two hands there, holding Lee up, the right hand, the left, and all that. But he was right there, and he, he was willing to give his advice to the commanding general when he thought that things were mistaken, especially at Gettysburg. And you'll see that in the movies that are made about him. He was born in 1821, January 8th, just got into 1821 and died in 1904. He lived quite a long life. He was the principal subordinate to, of course, Robert E. Lee, and was called his old war horse. He served under Lee as a corps commander for most of the battles fought by the Army of Northern Virginia in the Eastern Theater, and briefly with Braxton Bragg in the Army of Tennessee in the Western Theater. After he was also a West Point man, and he served in the Army during the Mexican-American War. Again, that's a common theme among a lot of these men. He was wounded at the Battle of Chapultepec, and if you know anything about that battle, and I've been at Chapultepec, and you have to climb Chapultepec. We walked it. I think there are some cars that you can ride up there and all that, or get somebody to bicycle you up or something. But we walked it. I'm going to tell you, that's a hard climb, especially after you've walked all day. And there's an amusement park there too. But it houses today the Mexican National Museum, which is an interesting thing to go look at. I get it. It's their history, their pride, but their view of the war, the Mexican-American War, that is. And that was a place where the Marines took a heavy beating, but they got it. They won. The last 5 Mexicans wrapped themselves in the flag and jumped off instead of being captured, from my understanding. And the red stripe on the Marine pants, that's so bloody. I mean, like 90% loss. But I've been there. It's a beautiful place. And I just couldn't imagine fighting up that thing. I mean, they definitely had the high ground. There's no doubt. But they got knocked off of it. But he was there. And I can understand why, definitely why he would have been injured if you read anything about that war. And during recovery, he married his first wife, Louise Garland. Throughout the 1850s, he served on frontier duty in the America's Southwest. Now, that happened a lot, too. A lot of the generals served in, of course, patrols and Indian fights and wars and stuff. And I get it. People are, but there was that Western expansion and, territories, and they were going to become states. And there were many who did that in the early days of the West, as they were establishing cities and trying to protect those cities and stuff. So a lot of them had that in their resume. In June 1861, Longstreet resigned his U.S. Army commission and joined the Confederate Army. He commanded Confederate troops during the early victory at Blackburn's Ford in July and played a minor role in the first battle of, they call it Bull Run up there, but Manassas. Longstreet made significant contributions to most major Confederate victories, primarily in the Eastern Theater, as one of Lee's chief subordinates. He performed poorly at Seven Pines by accidentally marching his men down the wrong road, causing them to arrive late. That also played into the battles, being late, not weather, fatigue, sickness. I mean, it all plays in. But he played an important role in the success of the 7 Days battles in the summer of 1862, where he helped supervise the repeated attacks that drove the Union Army away from the Confederate capital of Richmond. Longstreet led a devastating counterattack that routed the army at Second, as they call it, Bull Run, in August. His men held their ground in defensive roles at Antietam and Fredericksburg. He did not participate in the Confederate victory at Chancellorsville, as he and most of his soldiers had been detached on the comparatively minor siege of Suffolk. Longstreet's most controversial service was at the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863 of July. We remember this well, right? When he openly disagreed with Lee on the tactics to be employed and reluctantly supervised several unsuccessful attacks on Union forces. Afterward, Longstreet was, at his own request, sent to the Western Theater to fight under Braxton Bragg, where his troops launched a ferocious assault on the Union lines at Chickamauga. He carried with him about 15,000 troops, is my understanding. They had one heck of a rail ride to get to the battlefield because you couldn't take a direct line because the Union Army held those lines. So they had to take a very wide ride. Took a long time to get there. And then were able to be dropped off there at Catoosa Station, I think that was. And then afterward, and really not a whole lot afterwards, a little bit. He went from there to the Knoxville campaign, and it was a Confederate defeat. His tenure in the Western Theater was marred by his central role in numerous conflicts among Confederate generals. Unhappy serving under Bragg, he was no Lee, that's for sure. Longstreet and his men were sent back to Lee, aptly commanded troops during the Battle of Wilderness in 1864, where he was seriously wounded by friendly fire. He later returned to the field, serving under Lee in the siege of Petersburg and the Appomattox campaign, of course. No glory there, honestly. Longstreet enjoyed a successful post-war career working for the U.S. government as a diplomat, civil servant, and administrator. He supported his support for the Republican Party and his cooperation with his pre-war friend Ulysses S. Grant, as well as his critical comments he wrote about Lee's wartime performance, made him anathema to many of his former Confederate colleagues. His reputation in the South further suffered when he led African-American militia against the anti-Reconstruction White League at the Battle of Liberty Place in 1874. And again, this not liking of him was to last a long time. As an elderly man, he married Helen Dortch Longstreet, who worked to restore her husband's image after his death. Since the late 20th century, Longstreet's reputation has undergone a slow reassessment. Many Civil War historians now consider him among the war's most gifted tactical commanders. I think he was a very good commander. Just some bad situations that he got into. But he very central figure. And again, a great look for a commander was he. Let's get a couple of more in here in the time we have left. We'll pick this up next week, and then we'll have music after this, music show. And all the streets around here have their Thomas Street, and I don't Longstreet has one or not. There was Longstreet's Charge around here, different. You would see that signage, but Crittenden is also the little town Chickamauga. Many of the generals are named on the signage for the streets. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Here is Mr. Crittenden, thin man. He got a little longer hair straight in the back, but I like the beard and all. He was born in 1819, May 15th, not far from my birthday, and died in 1893. American statesman, politician, soldier, and lawyer from the U.S. state of Kentucky. He served as a general for the Union during the American Civil War. His family was fairly typical for Kentucky in that he and his father supported the Union during the war. His elder brother, though, fought for the Confederacy. Crittenden was born in Russellville, Kentucky, the son of U.S. Senator John J. Crittenden, and later became the 17th governor of Kentucky. He also was the brother of Confederate General George B. Crittenden and author Anne Mary Butler Crittenden Coleman, as well as a cousin of Union General Thomas Turpin Crittenden. He married Catherine Todd, the daughter of his father's second wife. Their son, John Jordan Crittenden III, served in the United States Army and died with Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. We remember that, don't we? He was admitted to the bar and served in the United States Army during the Mexican-American War as a volunteer aide to General Zachary Taylor as lieutenant colonel of the 3rd Kentucky Volunteer Infantry from 1847 to 48. After the war's end, he served as U.S. consul in Liverpool. I didn't know that about him. At the beginning of the war, Kentucky was a state that declared its neutrality and was at risk of supporting the Confederacy. Crittenden and his father remained loyal to the Union, but his brother joined the Confederates, which was a common occurrence on border states. He had been a major general in the Kentucky militia since 1860. He was appointed Brigadier General of Volunteers in September and placed in command of the 5th Division, the Army of the Ohio. He led the division, the Battle of Shiloh in 1862. After Shiloh, He was appointed Major General of Volunteers in command of the 2nd Corps in the Army of Ohio during the Perryville campaign, although his corps was only lightly engaged in the fighting. When Rosecrans assumed command of the Army, Crittenden's forces were redesignated. The left wing of the Army of the Cumberland were heavily engaged at the Battle of Stones River. He received a brevet promotion to Brigadier General in the regular Army in 1867 for his service at Stones River. He went on. He led the corps through the Tullahoma campaign at the Battle of Chickamauga. Crittenden and his fellow commander, Alexander McDowell McCook, were blamed for the defeat and relieved of command. Hello, Miss Cindy. Relieved of command, but both were later exonerated and acquitted of any charges. During the Battle of Spotsylvania in 1864, Brigadier General Thomas G. Stevenson was killed. They're leading the 1st Division, 9th Corps. Stevenson's successor was Colonel Daniel Leisure. The decision was made to replace the colonel with a more experienced commander, and General Crittenden was chosen to take command of the division. He assumed command on May 12th and led it during the final days of Spotsylvania through the Battle of Cold Harbor. Well, that was a brutal, brutal battle. Before resigning in December of 1864. Yet he died in 1893, 74 years old, in Staten Island, New York. All right, let's get one more for sure. We'll go the southern side and the fighting preacher. And there he is, Leonidas Pope. Some loved him, some didn't. He was born in 1806. He was a little older than some of them, but not all of them, but some of them. And he died in 1864. And obviously we'll get to that in just a minute. So he was 58 years old. His nickname was Swanee's Fighting Bishop, or Bishop Pope. And I've heard other ones as well. Some not so nice, to be honest. His death was at Cobb County, Georgia. I've been into that area. His place of burial is Christ Church Cathedral in New Orleans. Let's read a little bit about Mr. Leonidas Pope. He was bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana and founder of the Protestant Episcopal Church in the Confederate States of America, which separated from the Episcopal Church of the United States. He was a planter in Maury County, Tennessee. Well, that's an interesting point. I didn't know that about him. Been there too. And a second cousin of President James K. Polk. He resigned his ecclesiastical position to become a major general in the Confederate States Army when he was called Swanee's Fighting Bishop. His official portrait at the University of the South depicts him as a bishop with his army uniform hanging nearby. He is often erroneously referred to as Leonidas K. Polk, but he had no middle name and never signed any documents as such. I didn't know that either. Polk was one of the war's more notable yet controversial political generals. Recognizing his familiarity with the Mississippi Valley, Confederate President Jefferson Davis commissioned his elevation to a high military position regardless of his lack of prior combat experience. In some cases, that worked for people like Forrest, who's just a natural born fighting leader. But some people were on both sides were given commands that they didn't deserve and were not ready for. And I think it could be said here about him. Not he was a bad man, just not in the position he should have been. He commanded troops to the Battle of Shiloh, Perryville, Stones River, the Tullahoma campaign, the Battle of Chickamauga, and the Meridian campaign, and the Atlanta campaign. So he was very involved, very involved. He is remembered for his bitter disagreements with his immediate superior, the likewise controversial General Braxton Bragg, of who we just talked about a few minutes ago, and nobody liked that guy. And for his limited success in combat while serving under the command of General Joseph E. Johnston, who replaced Bragg after Chattanooga. And as Sam Watkins says, the Army got its swagger back, got its, he got them some food, he got them paid, he let men come back and without being shot, and he did get the health of the Army back up, not as big as it was at Chickamauga, but it was still a really good fighting force, and he was trying to hold that Army together. He was outnumbered. So they can look at it two different ways. Jefferson will center on that as we go down through the 100 Days battles, but he wanted to make a stand, and I get that, and that's why Hood came back in the picture. And of course, he's in Richmond, campaigning against him, talking in his ear, but he held the army together, where Hood didn't. Hood destroyed it. Johnston held it together. While serving under the command of General Joseph E. Johnston, he was killed in action in 1864 during the Atlanta campaign, and Sam Watkins mentions that. He was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and of course, as he said, died there and is buried in New Orleans. But he was at quite a few battles, and he had a wife, Frances Devereaux, and they married in 1830. He had 10 children. He had 10 children. So an interest. Well, we got. Let me see if I can squeeze one more in here. We'll go because he was mentioned. We'll do Alexander McCook. And here is him because he was mentioned in the previous one. And here he is, Alexander McCook, an officer in the Federal Army. Born 1831 on April 22nd to June 12th, 1903, another long life, a career Army officer and a Union general in the American War. We call it the War between states down here. McCook was born in Columbiana County, Ohio, a Scottish family. The McCooks were prominent in Army service. His father, Daniel McCook, and 7 of Alexander's brothers, plus 5 of his first cousins, fought in the war. They were known as the Fighting McCooks, for whom McCook Field in Dayton, Ohio, was named. I didn't know that. His brothers were Daniel McCook Jr., Edwin Stanton McCook, and Robert Latimer McCook, were all Union generals, as were his cousins, Anson McCook and Edward McCook. Their grandfather, George McCook, had participated in the Irish Rebellion in 1798 and escaped the United States after it was defeated. Also a point man, he graduated from the academy in 1852, served against the Apaches and Utes in New Mexico. Like I said, a lot of them did. 1853 to 1857, was assistant instructor for infantry tactics at the military academy from 58 to 61. He held the rank of first lieutenant in the regular army when the war broke out in 1861. At the start of the war, he received a commission as colonel of the 1st Ohio. He served in the Washington defenses and saw action at the first battle there, and was promoted to captain of the regular army. In September of that year, he was promoted to brigadier general of volunteers, commanded a brigade in Kentucky. That fall, and led a division in February 1862. He earned the brevet of lieutenant colonel in the regular army for his part in the capture of Nashville, Tennessee. McCook then commanded the 2nd Division of the Army of Ohio at the Battle of Shiloh. And all these are, fighting in these various battles, so there's going to be a common theme, except for those obviously who were killed or relieved of command. On the 2nd day of fighting, and then the subsequent campaign against Corinth, Mississippi, he was promoted to Major General of Volunteers July 17, 1862, given the command of the 1st Corps in the Army of Ohio. His corps suffered heavy casualties and was driven back a mile at the Battle of Perryville in October 1862. Command of the Army of Ohio was reorganized, and his command was designated the right wing of the 14th Corps of the new Army of the Cumberland. His command again suffered heavy losses at the Battle of Stones River. Once again, the command structure was reorganized, and his corps was named the 20th Corps. For the 3rd and final time at Chickamauga, McCook's troops suffered heavily. Sounds like he was a Hood kind of guy. Go in and try to kill them all, and it seemed like he suffered a lot of losses in every battle. And he was also driven from the field in that, which all of them were. He was court-martialed, except for the Rock, who later moved on into Chattanooga, but the Rock of Chickamauga did not, but the rest of them did. They suffered heavily, driven from the field. He was court-martialed and partially blamed for the Union disaster at Chickamauga. He was not convicted, but relieved of duty in the Army of the Cumberland. McCook's demotion from command was in large part political, as he was a pro-slavery Democrat, and earned the ire of Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. Again, the complexities of this time frame, it's not so cut and dry of who is what and when and where. And when you study history and you look at the war, you'll find there are those on both sides who were definitely, pro this, pro that, or against this, against that. And so it wasn't always those just on those opposite sides that you would think they would be. He He waited almost a year before receiving another command assignment of any kind. It came thanks in part to Confederate General Jubal Early. Boy, that's an interesting character. I can't wait till we get to talk about him. And his threat against D.C., McCook was placed in command. And by the way, that attack on D.C., Jubal Early, one of my ancestors, was captured there at the Battle of Montesee, as they call it, and was taken to the old Capitol Prison and then on into Elmira, New York, that prison camp there, which was known as Helmira. That's a whole other thing we'll get to in the future. But we're going to have to hurry here. He was placed in the command of defense of the Potomac River, and Washington was in charge of all forces defending the capital at the Battle of Fort Stevens. The day the battle ended, so did McCook's command of the city's defenses, and he was again without command. At the close of the war, he was given command of the District of Eastern Arkansas. He received brevet promotions to Brigadier General, Major General of the Regular Army for service throughout the war. So we will have to stop there. The next week, we'll look at a few more of the lower commands that weren't mentioned here, and then also at some of the unique people that were involved in this war, including Sam Watkins. We'll look at him a little more, but also other people that were here, including a very famous poet. So that's the show for tonight, and I appreciate you for stopping by. Thank y'all for and I was reading, so I appreciate you, Sigma and Dean. A City Laid Waste by William Gilmore Simms, he says, is a good book to read. A City Laid Waste. Dean says he loves history. There's a Longstreet Road in Fairview. Yeah. Thank you for very interesting. Insignated, my heart is on fire for Elmira. Yeah, I love you. I love it, man. You always come up with something. Yeah, I didn't even think about that tie-in. That's cool. Bapa, NC Native, you're great. Miss Cindy and anybody else that's watching, thank you for y'all in Instagram. I'll be about 5 minutes. We're going to flip over and continue talking about music and some rock music. I've been talking about Tesla. We'll continue that a little bit. We may segue into the next group, or it may be next week. I don't know. Depends how much time we have. And then later tonight on Front Porch Talking, don't forget, we have the latest book. We're doing a book release party for this with threeravenspublishing.com. And it's Halloween night, and they're fun books. They're not that kind of scary, but they're funny, and they look at all those things. And anything that has anything to do with the trailer park, I'm all in. I just think it's great. It's a great series, and I'm reading. I have the book already, and I'm reading on it, and it's fantastic. Hey, we'll see you in a few minutes, hopefully. Take care, and we'll play another song that I didn't play in the intro. I don't know if I loaded it up. I didn't load it up, but we'll go back to The Girl Left Behind. A lot of them went to fight, and I don't know, NC, maybe. But a lot of them, they would write about the girl they left behind, and they hope to see them again, either their wives or their girlfriends, and they were just hoping they would get back and see them. But a lot of them didn't make it. They died. So the sadness of that, a lot of those stories. And we'll try to tell them. And again, don't forget Southern Shadows, a new tour company here, and Miss Courtney is going to be on hopefully the next history show, and she loves to talk about the Chickamauga battlefield. And they just did their ribbon cutting today. Go look them up and give them a follow. They're great folk. Had a great time over there talking to them today about history, and that's what this show is about. Not just about the war between the states. Yes, Dean, the Dodgers are down 2 games. It could be over for them. Can they do it? We'll see. See you in a few, folks. Take care. People.
Since I crossed the hill and o'er the moor and valley, such heavy thoughts my heart do fill since parting with my Sally. I seek no more the fine and gay, for each does but remind me how swift the hours did pass away with the girl I left behind me. shall I forget the night the stars were bright above me, and gently lent their silvery light when first she vowed to love me. But now I'm bound to Brighton camp, kind heaven, then pray guide me, and send me safely back again to the girl I left behind me. My mind her image full retains, whether asleep or waking. I hope to see my jewel again, for her my heart is breaking. But if ever I should have a chance to go back across the ocean, although my love may be lost to me, I'll find another maiden. Shall honey taste no more, the dove become a ranger, the falling waters cease to roar, ere I shall seek to change her. Each mutual promise faithfully made by her whom woes betide me, and true the last that loves me well, and the girl I left behind me. The brigadier commands the right and guard the ford and river. The main guard charged to attack, the flanking party shiver. The man who wears the stars and stripes, and in the field they find me. I will lay down my life and die for the girl I left behind me. Then may the union be preserved, while love will be the chain, sir. But if any of our rights are touched, I hope that we shall gain, sir. And if I should as a soldier fall, for one of us she'll pine, sir. And may her arms entwine another man like the girl I left behind me.
Early in the morning on the 19th of September, our army set out from Clemore's Cove. Down in Georgia, down by the Chickamauga, and I knew that the fighting was gonna be close. Down by the Chickamauga, by the Chickamauga, down by the Chickamauga, we saw our boys laying in rows. For 2 long days we heard the sound of cannonballs tearing through the trees like a summer rain. For 3 long days we heard the sound of rifle fire making our men scream out in pain. Down by the Chickamauga, by the Chickamauga, down by the Chickamauga, we saw our boys laying in rows. Now when the smoke cleared, there was thousands laying dead. The river ran red with the blood of the brave. Brother fought by my side, and I was there when he died, the day we made our stand at Snodgrass Hill. Down by the Chickamauga, by the Chickamauga, down by the Chickamauga, we saw